Hi, good morning. So we continue with the maximum likelihood estimation. So in the last class we have seen, or in the last video we have seen, the maximum likelihood estimation of different models. So the basic thing is you need to write down the likelihood, and we have seen how to do that. And we can either write down the full likelihood, or we can write down the conditional likelihood. Now, the conditional will be much more easy because it's based on the conditional distribution of xt given x1, x2, etc., xt minus 1. And of course, if it is a AR type of model, it's pretty easy. But if it is a ARMA type of model, uh, conditional likelihood depends on the conditional mean and the conditional variance, uh, especially when you assume a Gaussian distribution for the innovations. So the idea is basically to write down or use the covariance structure, use the distribution assumed for zt, and then write down the joint distribution of x1, x2, etc., xn if you have n observations as time series. That is the full likelihood, and full likelihood is easy in the case of AR type of models. And we have also seen that the conditional least square and the conditional likelihood approach results in the same type of estimators when your observations are conditional, or the conditional distribution follows a normal distribution, or ZT follows a normal distribution. So this is what we have seen in the last class. Now today's lecture is a kind of basically trying to I will be stating a theorem, but we will not be proving that. It's basically investigating the asymptotic properties of the maximum likelihood estimators or the least square estimators, which we can illustrate with some examples, but we may not have a proof of this. Reason being that I mentioned in the last class that we are not learning central limit theorem with dependent random variables. So you know that in all these things, like your sample side, you might have seen in the last two units of your ST203, which is based on the asymptotic inference, where we are interested in as the consistency and asymptotic normality of an estimator. Whenever you have an estimator, basically we are trying to have the consistency and that asymptotic normality. This is because consistency and asymptotic normality essentially help you in terms of deciding how good the estimator, and asymptotic normality, of course, in terms of useful in terms of or useful for constructing uh, test and confidence intervals. Okay, so what is the result that we have? The result is this. Consider a causal invertible ARMA PQ, and this is very crucial because I have to have this causal invertible assumption be proved. I mean, to be satisfied, because if I don't have this result available. So you assume that you have a causal invertible ARMA PQ model, and for the easiness of the statement, I'm just avoiding the mu. So I have only in this beta phi1, phi2, phi p q theta 1, theta 2, theta q. So mu has been avoided. Avoided means actually you can have it. It's not a big deal. So right now I am considering a ARMA PQ model without the mu. So the maximum likelihood the conditional least square each initialized by a method of moment estimator. Initialized in the sense I told you that you may not be in a position to prove them. I mean, like explicitly obtain the expressions. So you will have nonlinear or equations, and then you may have to have iterative methods to solve them, which will force you to have a starting estimators. And that's what the suppose if I take the method of moment estimators or the Yule-Walker estimate as a starting estimator, and then this beta is a vector which is basically a p plus q dimension vector where you have phi1, phi2, pp, theta 1, theta 2, theta q, and then this follows the root and theta, beta hat minus beta convergence distribution to a random variable whose distribution is normal with a p plus q variate vector 0 and the variance covariance matrix sigma square uh, gamma pq inverse. Okay, where gamma pq is actually a p plus q by p plus q matrix, where p plus q by p plus q matrix is gamma phi phi, gamma phi, gamma phi theta, gamma theta phi, and gamma theta theta. So this is a p by p, and this is P by Q, this is Q by P, and this is Q by Q matrix. So you have P plus Q by P plus Q matrix. Now what are these fellows? Four of them. So four of them are, the first one is a P by P matrix, which is, this has nothing to do with what is your original, not, I mean, ARMA PQs, because I have assumed the usual ARMA PQ that you have. So it doesn't have a connection with that notation. Whereas here we are saying that the asymptotic distribution is having the variance covariance matrix as the inverse of this, where this is given by suppose you consider an ARMA like this, xt minus v1, xt minus 1, etc., pp, xt minus p equal to zt. You consider the p by p variance covariance matrix of this, like gamma 0, gamma 1, etc., gamma p minus 1, that kind of a matrix. So what is that matrix that you will be looking at? You will be looking at gamma 0, gamma 1, gamma p minus 1, and then gamma 1, gamma 0, gamma 1, gamma p minus 2, etc. And then gamma p minus 1, gamma p minus 2. So this is what this matrix gamma phi phi. So this is basically corresponding to this. Similarly, you have to write gamma theta theta. Now this gamma theta theta, there is a slight difference. I mean, like we are not considering a moving average. We are considering an AR model, and that too like this, with its parameters as theta 1, theta 2, theta q. So this gamma theta is the matrix which appears in the asymptotic variance of this estimators. So yt plus theta 1 yt minus 1 plus theta q yt minus q, etc. And so don't, I mean, we will have a tendency to compare this with your ARMA PQ. This XY has nothing to do with this ARMA PQ. This XY is just to mention that what is the form of this. So the form of this is completely depending on this. Okay, the form of this is completely depending on this. This is not the original X ARMA PQ that you are talking about. Your original ARMA PQ could be, I mean, like actually I could have written a different notation over here. U1 minus phi1 u, I mean ut minus phi1 ut minus 1, etc., equal to some wt, and similarly this also. So this is basically just to indicate that what is the form of this. This has nothing to do with the given ARMA PQ. But of course, it has something to do in the sense that the form of the variance covariance matrix is of this type. That's what it says. It is not related to what is this ARMA PQ structure that you have here. So what it's, if you have a causal invertible ARMA PQ and then you obtain the estimates of beta, this beta is not a new notation. We have actually introduced them when we discussed the conditional maximum likelihood estimation in the case of ARMA. So this is given by this, and this gamma phi theta is a P by Q matrix. It's basically a cross covariance matrix of AR process XT and YT. So this is XT and this YT. So if you have order 1 1, it's basically this XT equal to mean XT equal to phi 1 XT minus 1 plus ZT, and YT equal to minus theta 1 YT minus 1 plus ZT. Compute the covariance between them, XT and YT, and that will be the matrix gamma phi theta here, right? And then of course this is nothing but the transpose of that, and this is the Q by Q matrix, which is defined exactly like this. But you know, that Q by Q is not of this type of process, but this type of process. So let's look at this in the special cases. So I suggest you that you write down this and then try to work out whatever I'm talking here. So for example, AR1, when we consider, AR1 is P equal to 1, Q equal to 0. So in an AR1, P equal to 1, Q equal to 0. So I will have only gamma phi phi, because q equal to 0 means this is 0, this is 0, this is 0. So they are not actually, or it is not there. I mean, like, so you have 1 by 1 matrix, which is just a scalar, right? So what is that scalar? Is a 1 by 1, and that is given by sigma square upon 1 minus phi square, which is gamma 0, basically. So that is the variance. So therefore, root n phi hat minus phi convergence distribution to normal 0, the inverse of this into sigma square. So inverse of this means 1 minus phi square upon sigma square into sigma square is 1 minus phi square. So root n phi hat minus phi is asymptotically distributed as normal 0, 1 minus phi square. So this is the asymptotic result that you get for the conditional least square as well as maximum likelihood estimation of phi hat. See, the maximum likelihood estimation of phi hat, whether it is with respect to conditional or unconditional, is not going to make much of a difference. The reason being that, as we have seen already, it's just one observation matters in the case of an AR1. So it actually, I mean, and when you have n tends to infinity, it hardly matters. So you get this result. Now, what happens if p equal to 2 and q equal to 0? So if p equal to 2 and q equal to 0 is again, it's AR2 model. So this will be a 2 by 2 matrix. So 2 by 2 matrix in the sense, so you are now considering this matrix. So this gamma pq is basically, so the result is like root n in phi hat minus phi. This is vector now, normal 0 vector, and then sigma square. This will be, what will be this? This is basically 2 2 inverse. So this is will be like this. In the sense, this will have only the first component. So 2 2 is actually gamma 0, gamma 1, and gamma 1, gamma 0. This matrix. So what is this? This is your gamma 2 2. And we need to actually compute the inverse of that. So you can actually get the inverse. So this is the matrix, is a 2 by 2 matrix, and it is given by this. And now in AR2, we know these quantities that we already derived, these quantities. So I'll substitute them. Gamma 0 is given by this quantity. Gamma 1 is given by this quantity. So you put them here. If you put them there, this gamma phi phi is, this is common actually. So that will come outside. And then there will be a sigma square into 1 minus phi 2 here. And sigma square phi 1 here, and here also the same thing, because it is just a transpose of that. Since it is not a matrix, I mean like a scalar, so this is just this quantity. All together it will be, if you have theta, then we can think about transpose, but now this is just same quantity. And then you have, this is same thing, so you have this in the denominator. This denominator is coming because it is here. Okay, and then what is the inverse of this matrix? So the inverse is adjoint by determinant, which you can easily find out in this case. So that in the determinant, what happened that you get 1 minus phi 2 square minus phi 1 square. So that quantity actually 1 minus phi 2, that get cancels, and your sigma square upon 1 plus phi 2 is there. And you are actually trying to find the inverse of that. So basically what you will have is 1 minus phi 2 square, the inverse of this matrix. So this is gamma phi phi. So the inverse means is just the inverse of this will be in the numerator, and this will be in the denominator. Now this term you may not see because it get cancels with the determinant of term. So that's what this is remaining. And the inverse, this will come here, this will come here, and with the minus sign, these are same. So you get this as the, because that is adjoint. So this gamma phi phi inverse is given by this, or in other words, if I write down the result, your phi is, your beta is theta 1 hat, theta 2 hat, which is given by this. So root 10 theta 1 hat theta 2 hat minus theta 1 theta 2. So this is your beta hat, this is your beta. There are no thetas here because q is 0. So this is asymptotically normal with mean 0 vector. What is the dimension of this vector? 2 by 1. And what is the dimension of this matrix, variance coefficient matrix? 2 by 2. So the asymptotic variance of this matrix is given by this. We have computed them here. So you will get, you can multiply this 1 minus phi 2 plus 1 plus phi 2 is 1 minus phi 2 square. And there will be a division by sigma square, but I have to multiply by sigma square, so that sigma square get cancels. So you get this as the asymptotic variance. So this will help you to construct confidence intervals for this vector because you have the asymptotic theory available. So you can construct asymptotic confidence interval. Well, now what I want you to do the similar exercise for MA1 and MA2. So in MA1, this will be, what will be this? This will be 1, this will be 0. In the MA2, this will be 2, this will be 0. So you write down the corresponding matrices and get this result. So the result is root and theta hat minus theta is normal with mean 0 and 1 minus theta square for MA1, and for MA2 it is this. So this I want you to verify and then solve this. So it's as similar as this, but there is a difference. These fellows will be different, so therefore corresponding thing will be different. Not only that, remember that we are not, when you write down this, you have to be careful because earlier you were writing the corresponding to this because this is corresponding to this process. Now this gamma theta theta is corresponding to this process. So you should write gamma, whatever gamma 0, gamma 1, gamma 0 corresponding to MA2 in that fashion, right? And we already have this done, this MA2, the correlation or covariance matrix is already discussed. So you can just copy them. Now what is remaining is, if I now go to ARMA PQ, what will be this? So if I get into ARMA PQ, what will happen that if ARMA PQ means, so you will have this particular result with all the entries available. So this is a 1 by 1, this is 1 by 1, this is also a 1 by 1 because now that phi and theta are available, so all the 4 entries will be there. So this is the extra that you need to compute when you are talking about ARMA PQ. But if you are AR, you have to compute only this. If there is MA, you have to compute only this. So let's look at an ARMA 1-1. So root n, now what happens that what is the vector of parameters? Phi and theta. So phi hat theta hat minus phi theta is asymptotically distribution is sigma square gamma 1 inverse. Now what is gamma 1? Gamma 1 is this matrix which is 2 by 2, where this is 1 by 1, this is 1 by, this is scalar, this is scalar, this is scalar, this is scalar. What are these scalars? So this will be given by gamma 0, which is sigma square upon 1 minus phi square, and this is also sigma square upon 1 minus theta square. You see, this is not actually MA variance, that is the difference. So you should remember that we are not talking about the MA variance directly, we are talking about the AR variance. So I have this model and then you are trying to find the variance of this. So that's why you are getting this. Okay, so this is something which I think you should be careful while doing this exercise. That's the only thing. Rest of the things are straightforward. So using the general result, we show that this is given by, this quantity. Now, what is required is this off-diagonal entries. The off-diagonal entries are same because transpose, because it is 1-1-1, transport is same as, it's the same thing. So how will you obtain this? So this is obtained between the covariant. So if you look at the statement of the result, it is obtained by, this is obtained by the covariance Q P by Q. Now P and Q are 1, so it is 1 by 1. So it is scalar. It's a covariance matrix between AR, this XT and YT. So let's look at that, the covariance between XT and YT, which is given by covariance between XT equal to phi XT minus 1 plus ZT and YT equal to minus theta YT minus 1 plus ZT. So the covariance between them is minus phi theta, covariance between xt minus 1 yt minus 1, which is again gamma 0. So gamma 0 is equal to minus phi theta gamma 0, plus this is 0, covariance between them. This covariance is 0, but this covariance is sigma square, because that will be the variance. So you have sigma square here. So gamma xy0 is equal to sigma square upon 1 plus phi theta. This you take it on the other side and then simplify it, so you get this. So the asymptotic variance covariance matrix of the estimators is given by this quantity. Okay. Uh, Remember that we can do this exercise, but we are not proving this result. That you have to be careful. I am just stating them, and at your level right now, you are not in a position to prove them, because I don't know the sense. Because all these set results, if you remember your 203, the asymptotic normality is proved by central limit theorems. So I cannot have a central limit theorem directly applicable here, because the observations are dependent. So that is the reason that we are not proving it, but we are just stating it. Okay. So these are our basic. So we have seen three different methods of estimation, and the asymptotic results are more or less same under the causality and invertibility. So we have the method of moment with all nothing but Yule Walker, and then we have the conditional least square, and then we have the maximum likelihood, which can be like a full likelihood or approximate or conditional likelihood. So we have seen that the asymptotic results also corresponding to that. Now, naturally, when you have one type of estimation, you can also have other type of estimations. So if you remember, it depends on few things. Like for example, when you are saying that you have a model like this is going to depend on all this. Like for example, so this is basically you are saying xt equal to, say for example, phi 1 xt minus 1 plus etc. phi p xt minus p plus zt plus theta 1 zt minus 1 plus theta q zt minus q. Okay. This is basically depending on the distribution of zt's. Now, right now we have assumed, now we have normality. Because we are saying we have Gaussian time series. So our model is basically a Gaussian time series model. But this is questionable, so that's why we can actually check this assumption at the end. So after fitting the model, we need to check this assumption of Gaussian, exactly like your regression analysis. So in regression also we do this same thing. We assume that you have Gaussian, and that's why we start fitting a simple linear or multiple linear regression models, and then try to verify the Gaussian assumption. Exactly the same thing here. We fit this model and then try to verify that Gaussian assumption is true, because this is happening under the Gaussian assumptions only. So what is that distribution of Z is very important in getting this particular thing. So let's go back. Now, if I don't want to make that assumption, what other type of estimations are available? So we can have, in general, we can have three more different types of estimations. One is called quasi likelihood estimation, and another one is Bayes estimation, and the third one is non-parametric estimation. Now, whatever I'm going to talk from now onwards, it's not a part of the syllabus. Just for your knowledge, okay, we only have maximum likelihood estimation or least square, but not what I'm going to talk now. So in quasi likelihood, what we do is that we assume a particular model, even though the data doesn't follow that, and then try to write down the likelihood and then get the estimators according to that, assuming that that is true. Now this has a serious setback. If it is not true, all your estimators are going to give you bad results. So this is what the drawback of quasi likelihood. The advantage is that your life is more cool, because, for example, if you assume a normal distribution, it's very easy to write down the likelihood. You see, writing down the likelihood is a big problem in the case of dependent observations. So that's why it is better to assume some kind of a distribution for that and then start writing down. So that is what the quasi likelihood does. So under this setup, even if the observations are not following a particular distribution, the estimators are derived using the likelihood function with that distributional assumption. Theoretical properties of these estimators have been investigated under various models. Many a time results are not, this may result not in good estimators. We will not discuss this method in our course. Another type of estimation is Bayesian estimation, which you may be learning simultaneously in the Bayesian inference. So what is that? So the Bayesian estimation is basically assume, so for those parameters that you have, you assume a prior and then try to derive the posterior and then use the posterior distribution to compute the estimators like posterior mean, posterior mode, etc. So assume a prior for the parameters, obtain the posterior. Even though I have written theta here, this theta you should treat for all phi 1, phi 2, phi p, theta 1, theta 2, theta p. Okay, so that's what is theta. So this is applying the Bayes theorem. You have the posterior like this, and use this posterior to find the estimators like posterior mean, posterior mode, etc. Well, there are a lot of issues here. What the prior that I should choose in this context? That is number one. And then this is not very, the posterior is not very handy. It is not, you can't simplify them, and especially posterior mean, you can't compute them. So we may have to resort to, numerical way of obtaining or simulated kind of obtaining. Uh, so we actually try to simulate observations from posterior distribution, even though its form is not known. And this we resort to what is known as Markov chain Monte Carlo method, which you are learning in your Bayesian inference course. So use my MCMC methods or Gibbs algorithm. And again, this is not a part of our course. A third method is I don't want to resort to a parametric model. So, for example, your entire time series is basically you are trying to have this is your model. YT is basically expected value of sorry. So YT given this FT minus 1 plus SZT. This is your model. Now, I really don't know what is this because this is like completely unknown to me. I mean, some people may say that, okay, it is of that form, say alpha plus beta YT minus 1, or maybe YT minus 1, YT minus 2, or you maybe have ZT and ZT minus 1, etc. So, but I don't want to assume such kind of linear stuff. So, you can have linear, non-linear, all kinds of things. So if I don't want to make such kind of assumption, what I will do, I'll simply say that this is some function of this quantity which I am writing is basically is that of yt minus 1 etc y1. So I'll say that this is some function of this, maybe a g of, it's just a function of this. So what I need, I will estimate g. Estimate g. So this is what called a non-parametric approach. So the mean functional is estimated, or the conditional mean is estimated without parameterizing it. In this case, for example, in this case, you have parameterized it because you are calling it as alpha plus beta. Then I have to estimate alpha and beta. But here I am not parameterizing, estimate the function as such. There is a lot of difference. This is you are estimating a real valued parameter. Here you are estimating a function. So we need to have methods for that, and that's what non-parametric functional estimation. So that's what I've written here. So under this setup, no particular parametric form is assumed, but for the conditional mean, which is basically a function of xt minus x1, x2, etc., xt minus 1, so this is estimated. These bold letters indicate all these fellows. Vector. So using the theory of kernel estimation, we can actually, or local polynomial estimation, we estimate this function. And then you can have asymptotic results. Again, we are not discussing this in our course. Okay, so that's about the end of this estimation. So basically, we will be using least square as well as maximum likelihood estimation. Thank you.